Good morning and welcome to an exciting morning to talk business. It's Business 360. My name is Blyden Ukem. In Business 360 today, we'll look at the big eye-lines and outlines in the world of business. Key on the news would be that the Supreme Court has adjourned the suit filed by the state government to challenge the Naira redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN). The Supreme Court adjourned the case till Wednesday, February 22nd for a hearing of the consolidated suits by 10 states. Let's look at other stories making rounds in the world of business, beginning from Argentina. Argentina's inflation rate has hit just shy of 100%, the government said on Tuesday, with savers feeling more pain from some of the world's fastest rising prices and workers' budgets straining as costs outstrip salaries. Inflation is in Argentina, it's about 98% at the moment, 98.8%, and quite difficult for the people of Argentina. In the US, a group of Tesla workers in New York is trying to form a union, which would be a first for Elon Musk's electric car make company. They have sent a letter to the firm outlining the plans and asking leaders to agree to ground rules for a fair union election. Mr. Musk, who has opposed organizing efforts at his company in the past, has not responded publicly to the efforts. About 2,000 people work at the plant in Buffalo, according to organizers. Let's find out more from them.
Amount of that equipment is not being used, and I know that we were in the process of a large amount of that equipment is not being used, and I know that we were in the process of a large amount of that equipment is not being used, and I know that we were in the process.
That's the outlook within it, talking about Tesla workers hoping to create a launch of a union. The European Parliament formally approved a law to ban the sale of new gas and diesel cars in the European Union from 2035 in a move designed to speed up the transition to electric vehicles, which is part of climate change, says the car makers must achieve a 100% cut in carbon dioxide emissions from new cars sold by 2035, which means no new fossil fuel powered vehicles could be sold in the 27-country bloc. With 340 votes in favor, 279 against, and 21 abstentions, the new rules also set a path for more immediate emissions reduction targets. Let's get more details regarding this.
35 is part of the bloc's effort to fight climate change. Frans Timmermans is European Commission Vice President.
The Industrial Revolution is happening, whether we like it or not. We can choose to lead it. We can choose to do it in a way that is socially compatible with our values, or we can leave it to other parts of the world to lead it, and then all we can do is follow and deindustrialize.
35 is part of the bloc's effort to fight.
Many big companies and oil companies are reporting their biggest annual reports in profits ever as they released their results for the fourth quarter of 2022. ExxonMobil reported the highest profits to date for any Western oil company with $59.1 billion. Shell announced the biggest profits in the company's 115-year history at $39.9 billion, and Chevron $36.5 billion, Total Energies $36.2 billion, and BP $27.7 billion, a new record. Oil companies have seen soaring quarterly profits last year, with oil prices sharply rising following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The profits add up to $199 billion and are even higher than analysts predicted. Let's look at what's happening around Africa. Despite holding more than 8% of the world's proven natural gas reserves, Africa remains the most energy-poor continent in the world, according to reports. Hawilti, a Pan-African investment research firm, disclosed this in its recent report titled Gas for Africa. The report said Africa has the lowest energy consumption per capita in the world, while the average electricity use of a sub-Saharan African resident is lower than that of a household fridge in the United States. Where energy is available in African countries, the report said it is often expensive, inefficient, polluting, and unreliable. It added that domestic natural gas can help to alleviate Africa's energy poverty, but despite producing over 6% of the world's natural gas supply and having close to 1/10 of proven global reserves, most of African continent has no access to its natural gas. Sad story from an African outlook. But let's look at the good one from an African and Nigerian point of view. A tech mobility startup, Narazi, emerged the winner out of the selected startups that participated in the third annual Nigerian Communication Commission's Information and Communications Technology Innovation Competition and Exhibition. Narazi clinched the cash prize of 2 million naira after demonstrating excellence in its capacity to bridge the digital divide. The competition was organized by the Research and Development Department of the NCC and was held at the NCC Digital Bridge Institute, Oshodi, Lagos State. The third annual NCC ICT Innovation Competition, themed Utilizing Indigenous Digital Solutions to Bridge the Digital Divide, kicked off with over 1,000 startup applications, according to reports. Still in Nigeria. The Governor, Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, said CBN conducted an extensive in-house analysis and consultation and saw a need for the policy to redesign some Nigerian banknotes. While giving reasons for some of the challenges encountered in new Naira notes access, he said there was a panic mop-up of notes by politicians. Emefiele said, during a brief to the diplomatic community on recent monetary policy and its decision of the CBN at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Abuja, he stated this. He said, currency management is a key function of a Central Bank of Nigeria, as enshrined in Section 2B of the CBN Act 2007. Let's move to global economy and see what's happening in the economic calendar. And the key feature will be key data releases for today, Wednesday, February 15th, 2023. We'll begin with the morning data release, and afterwards we'll look at the afternoon data releases expected. In the early hours of the morning, around 12 a.m., it was about the unemployment rate in South Korea. Previously, it was at 3.1%, but it slowed down to 2.9%. But a key data release was that of 8 a.m., highlighted with red. It was inflation rate year on year in Great Britain, the UK. Inflation dropped slightly to 10.1% from 10.5%, looking at market forecast at 10.3%, but it did better than the forecast at 10.1%. Let's look at data release in the afternoon. What would be the data release in the afternoon? Key data release would be highlighted around 2:30 p.m. It would be US retail sales month on month. Previously, it was at a negative 1.1%, but the focus shows some positivity at 1.2%. We can only wait till 2:30 to find out what the outlook would be regarding retail sales in the US. Let's look at inflation rates in the US. US is the world's biggest economy, and whatever happens there affects investment and the market. The annual inflation rate in the US slowed only slightly to 6.4% in January of 2023 from 6.5% in December, less than market forecast of 6.2%. Still, it is the lowest reading since October 2021. A slowdown was seen in food prices while the cost of used cars and trucks continued to decline. In contrast, the cost of shelter increased faster, as well as energy, with gasoline prices rising 1.5%, reversing from a 1.5% decline in December. On the other hand, both fuel oils and electricity prices slowed. Although inflation has shown signs of peaking at 9.1% in June last year, it remains more than 3 times above the Fed target of 2%. Let's go to the charts to see what inflation in the US is all about. The chart's inflation indicates. It indicates some upward and downward movements in inflation ranks, but as at April 2022, inflation in US was at 8.3%. It went further up to 9.1%, assumingly inflation has peaked at 9.1%. At July, it went up to 8.5%, though slowing down from 9.1%. And from July 2022, inflation rate in the US has been dropping downward. October 2022, 7.7%, and in January 2023 is 6.4%. Though there have been a slowdown in inflation in the US, the US Fed are still concerned about inflation rates, and the target is 2%. So they're battling to get it to 2%. Let's look at the next story that has to do with Rwanda, moving downward to show the outlook of what happens in Africa. The annual inflation rate in Cape Verde, rather not Rwanda, Cape Verde, jumped to 15.5% in January 2023, up from 7.6% in the prior month. It was the highest reading since comparable data began in January 1998, mainly on account of prices of food and non-alcoholic beverages in December. Alcoholic beverages and tobacco, transportation, restaurants and hotels, furnishing and household equipment, and miscellaneous goods and services. The concerns within the country would be on a monthly basis. Consumer prices surged by 8.3%, the most on record, after being flat in the prior month, mainly boosted by prices of food and non-alcoholic beverages 17.6%, alcoholic beverages and tobacco 13.7%, and housing as well as utilities 10.1%. A chart would do us good, indicating inflation month on month in Cape Verde. The chart showed that inflation in Cape Verde had been slow. At April 2022, it was at 7.6%, went up to 9% in July 2022. October, it went up to 8.2%, a little here, a little there, slightly upward and slightly downward. But as of January 2023, disappointingly, it went up to 15.3%, showing difficulties in the economy of the country Cape Verde. That high. Let's move to the commodity markets, beginning with energy markets. We'll have a commentary from Bob Isino. WTI futures recovered after gapping lower by 1.35%. Bob Isino has more regarding the energy market.
The high today, 79.61, was still down 0.66% versus yesterday's settlement of 80.14, which was the first time in multiple sessions that we had closed above $80 a barrel on WTI. But we got all the way down to 77.46. That was down 3.34%. We finished today down about 1.14% or 1.16%, which again, it's a respectable recovery. Still down on the day, but over the last 2 sessions, crude oil has been under pressure and has come back a little bit. Today, we didn't finish positive. Yesterday, we did. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve and the level of crude oil in the SPR is becoming a concern. Congress is moving ahead with the sale of 26 million barrels a day. Now, these are mandated by Congress to fill other budgetary holes for unrelated projects, and they have a directive to tell the president to demand that the Department of Energy sell these 26 million barrels, and they would not act to rescind it. So that's where some of the pressure came, knowing there's more supply coming on the market this morning. But this leaves the SPR after this particular sale at about 346 million barrels, and that's only 93.
That was Bob Isino talking about the energy market, the WTI crude. But let's find out more from the market, what the market is saying, beginning with the energy market, what the prices are this morning. Crude oil has shown some downward movement this morning, but not huge. For US crude, which is a WTI West Texas Intermediate crude, current price $77.7 US per barrel, a negative 1.6%. For Brent, which is Nigeria's price benchmark, it's US dollars per barrel right now, downward by 1.28 points, a negative 1.52%. Natural gas is downward, gasoline is downward, heating oil is downward, coal is downward. The bulk of the energy market seemed downward this morning. Let's find out from the metal market how the outlook is regarding gold, silver and the rest, and the same also negative. The morning market has also shown some negativity amid anticipations of today's data and the peak of the US inflation data that came out yesterday. Gold price currently $1,834 US dollars per ounce, downward by 19.3 points, a negative 1.05%. Silver is downward too, copper downward this morning, but steel is doing a bit fine. 67 points, a 1.67% appreciation this morning. Current price 4,073 Chinese yuan per ton. Iron ore seem also solid this morning. Let's look at agricultural market. The agricultural market is indicative of the perspective from soybeans. Soybeans current price 1,528 US dollars per bushel, downward by 9.5 points, a negative 0.62% decline. Wheat also downward this morning, lumber downward this morning, palm oil downward by 10 points, and cheese downward. The bulk of the agricultural market seem on the negative. The market is struggling this morning. Let's move quickly to the forex market to see what Dan Deming has to offer regarding market commentary. Euro futures rally for a session after hitting a 1-month low. Dan Deming discusses this. Let's find out.
Euro futures coming off the lowest level in over a month yesterday to trade higher, continuing to trade higher today, although well off the intraday highs. Currently 1.0745, intraday high of 1.08245, which came right after the release of the U.S. CPI data. And we did see quite a reaction upon that release. Now, the data points that were coming in today indicated that basically what the market had anticipated going into the release, the CPI data, pretty much in line with expectations. But those expectations were higher than the previous couple of months. So we did see initially some back and forth action as the markets digested that data point, or those various data points coming in with the CPI data. And now we're seeing a selling pressure continuing to persist with the Euro futures and pushing back down towards the lows of the day, just off those lows, which basically correspond with yesterday's.
That's Dan Deming talking about the euro and its persuasion in the market amid all the data releases. Let's go straight to the market, figuring out what euro is doing this morning amid the struggles trying to get back to 1.09 points. The euro against the US dollar, current price 1.07 to US dollar equaling 1 euro after dropping to 1.06. It's doing that rally, but slightly downward this morning, a 0.09% decline. For pounds, it's a similar story. Most of the markets are struggling this morning. The pound USD, they're struggling against the US dollar, and the Aussie against the US dollar, it's downward this morning. On a weekly basis, a negative 1.05% decline. The US dollar also gained against the Chinese yuan. The US dollar is very dominant in the market this morning. Let's find out more regarding Naira against the US dollar. Naira's perspective in the market this morning indicates some positivity for the US dollar, but it's still within the range of 460 Naira equaling 1 US dollar in the international exchange window. For euro against the Naira, the euro gained to the Naira by 1.78 point, a 0.36% appreciation at the window. 494.92 Naira equaling 1 euro. For the pounds against the Naira, it's a similar story, gaining by 3.29 points, a 0.59% appreciation. The pound has gained to the Naira. Current price 561.53 Naira equaling 1 pound at the international exchange window. Let's look at the parallel market, what the black market is saying regarding Naira and its exchanges with the rest of the currencies. Dollar to Naira rate, if you are buying that rate in the black market, is an average of 762 Naira to $1. If you're selling it, an average of 754 Naira to $1. For the pounds to the Naira, similar story. If you're buying, it's 940 Naira equaling 1 pound, and if you're selling, it's 925 Naira to 1 pound. For the euro to the naira, it's 805 naira to 1 euro if you're buying on the average, and 785 naira to 1 euro if you're buying on the average. There's an outlook for South African rand to the naira, the dirham to the naira, Chinese yuan to the naira, even the Ghanaian cedi to the naira. Let's look at what cryptocurrency will offer us in the market. We have an outlook of it. Bitcoin, just like most commodities, also struggling this morning against the US dollar. Current price 22,175 US dollar to 1 Bitcoin, dropping by 82 points, a negative 0.36%. Ether is dropping this morning by 5.5 points. 1,551 is the price for Ether. Binance gaining slightly by 1.5 point, not reasonably. Cardano down, Solana downward, Ripple also struggling to go up. But the outlook from the crypto market is negative this morning. It's time to look at global stock markets, what the stocks are doing. We'll have an equity market commentary by Scott Bois. VolQ sank more than 10% after CPI, which is the consumer price index data, was released. Scott Bois discusses Nasdaq and S&P 500 futures. Let's hear him.
To a more than 3-month high, topping 4.6%. People may be pricing in further rate hikes because of that. Markets did several U-turns on the day, especially the S&Ps, which traded from 40.95 up to 41.60 and everywhere in between, back and forth. Closed near the flat line. The Dow had been down as much as 400 and the Nasdaq had been down almost 150 points before turning positive. VolQ and ES options, there was a big volatility crush today after the CPI report. VolQ was down over 10% to 2280-ish, the lowest in a couple weeks. And speaking about vol crush, at the money implied volatility in S&P 500 E-mini options went from 26 at the close yesterday to under 20 today for options expiring this Friday. And at the close yesterday, the CME event volatility calculator priced in a move on the CPI report of about 55 points in the S&Ps and about 270 points in the E-mini NASDAQ. Bitcoin and CME news, well, coming March 13th, pending regulatory approval.
That's the outlook regarding the S&P 500 and NASDAQ. Let's move to Nigerian stock market. The equity capitalization in the Nigerian capital market rose by 0.21% at the close of trading yesterday. This represented a 60 billion naira growth in the market capitalization from 29.61 trillion naira to 29.67 trillion naira after 5 hours of trading. Similarly, the all-share index rose by 117.4 basis points to close at 54,482.07 points. Investors traded 163.63 million shares worth of 5.5 billion naira in 3,145 deals. The top gainers were Cotville. Cotville led the gainers list with a 8.33% rise in share price, moving from 48 kobo to 42 kobo per share. The bottom losers. International Energy Insurance topped the losers table after shedding 6.2% to drop from 1 naira 29 kobo to 1 naira 21 kobo per share. For the top volume, Boa Foods led the day's trading with 50 million shares valued at 3.72 billion naira. That's the outlook on Business 360 this morning. Thank you for watching. My name is Blyden Ukem.